What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video. I'm Nick, and if you're watching this video right now, you either 1, like basketball, or 2, I told you to come watch it. Because, I don't have that many subscribers. So if you're watching this, make sure you subscribe right now. I'm trying to get to 1,000 before, I don't even know, May? The end of May, I want 1,000. We're at like 600 something now, so get to it. But anyways, I wanted to make a video about the top 10 Hall of Fame classes for basketball of all time. Last Saturday, they came out the 2020 class, which included Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Kobe Bryant, and it got me thinking, what's the greatest Hall of Fame class of all time? Even better was top 10. So I did plenty of the research, and I think my list is pretty good. Obviously, it's all my opinion. Comment below if you think anything should be changed, any classes I didn't put on my list that you think should be on it. Anyways, enjoy the video and let's get right into it.
Number 10, 1996. A very good group of players were inducted in 1996 with David Thompson, Gail Goodrich, and George Gervin. Gervin was a 9-time All-Star who racked up lots of points and blocks during his 13-year career. At the time of his retirement, Gervin was the leader of most statistical categories for the Spurs and definitely was considered the greatest player in San Antonio history. He never made a championship in his American career, which hurt his legacy, but his versatile scoring and the way he helped to revolutionize the big guard position was a huge part of Gervin's career. Gail Goodrich was a Laker for 9 of his 14 seasons, including a championship in 1972. A 5-time All-Star, Goodrich was the leading scorer on the Lakers for a majority of the seasons he was with them. He helped them to beat the Knicks in the finals in a series where Goodrich averaged 25. David Thompson was a 4-time All-Star who scored 73 points in a game against the Pistons on April 9, 1978. Thompson was a very talented scorer who had his career cut short due to injuries as he got older. Other members of this class were Krasmir Kozik, a 2-time Eurobasket MVP, Nancy Lieberman-Klein, who signed a 7-day contract as a 50-year-old, and George Yardley, a 6-time NBA All-Star. Number 9, 1980. Although this class is 9th on my list, they have some of the most legendary players to play in the game. Mr. Triple-Double himself, Oscar Robertson, and the NBA logo, Jerry West, led the 1980 group. Oscar Robertson was filling up the stat line from the beginning of his career. He didn't average a triple-double until his second year, but came pretty dang close his rookie season, averaging 30.5 points, 10 rebounds, and 9.7 assists. Too bad he couldn't average 0.3 more assists. Oscar went on to rack up 181 triple-doubles in his career, a stat line that has not been touched since, although somebody is approaching. Robertson won his only championship as a 32-year-old in Milwaukee, but still was a 12-time All-Star, winning the All-Star Game's MVP 3 times. He was a league MVP in 1964 as well. Oscar averaged 30 points an entire season, 6 different times. Okay, so? Where's the three-point line? This man put up 30 a night without a three-point line. Insane. And you can say the same thing about Jerry West, who averaged 30 in a season 4 times without a three-point line. These guys were straight buckets. West was a 14-time All-Star who didn't put up crazy stat lines every night like the Big O, but was so consistent throughout his entire career, never averaging less than 17 points a game each season. And that was his rookie season. He only got better. He retired with great accolades as a player, but then he went up to the executive position and went on to win 8 more NBA championships with the Lakers throughout the 80s and the Warriors during their dynasty run a few years ago. Jerry Lucas, also inducted in 1980, was a rebounding machine. Man averaged 17 rebounds for his entire career. One season he averaged more rebounds than points. 19 rebounds a game and 17 points in the 1967 season. The sad part, he never led the league in rebounding. That's what happens when you play at the same time as Wilt Chamberlain. He always found a way just to do more than you. Other members of this class were Les Harrison, the man who helped establish a 24-second shot clock, Everett Shelton, a college coach who won a national championship with Wyoming in 1943. Number 8. 1959. You know I wanted to recognize this class because they were the pioneers of basketball. George Mikan is the only player I really recognized when I first looked on this list, and for a good reason. The 6'10 kid from a small town in Illinois began with his hometown Chicago American Gears of the National Basketball League before it merged into the NBA in 1950, and then he went on to win 4 championships with the Minneapolis Lakers. He also played a role in numerous rule changes that we still use in today's basketball, such as the shot clock, goaltending, and the Mikan rule, which changed the free throw lane from 6 feet to 12 feet. But this class was so much more. Charles Hyatt was a 3-time All-American in college when he played for Pittsburgh. Hank Lucetti, from his first season of high school to his final season as a player, participated in a championship game, including when he won with Stanford in 1937. A big reason I have to recognize this class is the contributors that were elected in '59. James Naismith invented this game. I wouldn't be making this video if James Naismith didn't think, I should make a game where you shoot a sphere into a peach basket. But he did. and it has changed the lives of millions around the world. Naismith developed the original 13 rules of basketball, which include things like the ball may be thrown in any direction with one or both hands, and a player cannot run with the ball. Tough rules. And the first team of basketball. You may be wondering what their name was. Well, it's First Team. In 1891, this team had 18 players and played the first game at the YMCA, where the final score was 1-0. They helped travel around the U.S. to make the game more popular, and it caught on quickly. The original Celtics were also included for being the first pro team to sign player contracts and really start basketball as a professional sport. This team was based in New York and won 2 American Basketball League championships during their 16 years in existence. What a dynasty. Number 7, 1987. When you think of basketball in the modern way it is played today, these guys come to mind instantly. Rick Barry, Walt Frazier, Pete Maravich. Rick Barry is known for his underhand free throw form that led him to shoot 90% for his entire career. He led the NBA in free throw percentage in 6 of his 10 seasons in the league. Barry spent a majority of his career in Northern California with the San Francisco Warriors, the Oakland Oaks, and of course the Golden State Warriors when he became a champion in 1975 and also won Finals MVP for averaging 36 points in that series. Barry was an 8-time All-Star and went down as one of the best offensive and defensive players of all time. Walt Frazier was as good as his sideburns. This man was made for New York, where he played for much of his career with his flashiness on and off the court. The way he played emulates a lot of today's generation of players, especially at the guard position. Frazier was a 2-time champ with the Knicks, a 7-time All-Star, and even holds one of the greatest performances in basketball history. The 1970 championship was won because of Frazier, who tallied this: 36 points, 19 assists, 7 rebounds, 6 steals, 1 ring. He leads the Knicks in assists all-time with 4,791, which will most likely not be broken anytime soon. Pete Maravich is, in my opinion, the most underrated basketball player of all time. He did come into the pros with lots of expectations after averaging 40-plus points every season in college, but he still did so much more. Maravich is still the all-time leading scorer in Division I history with 3,667 points. His jersey number is retired by the Hawks, Jazz, and Pelicans, then the Hornets, and well-deserving. A 5-time All-Star, Maravich once scored 68 points in a game, and this was just a glimpse of what he could do. He averaged 31 points a game in 1977, and just like Frazier, Maravich loved to put on a show for the crowd. His flashy handles and passes was something never seen before, and changed basketball for players such as Magic Johnson at the time. He never won a championship, but had plenty of personal accolades to prove how talented Pistol Pete was. Maravich would pass away at just 40 years old. Rest in peace. Also inducted this year was Bobby Wainzer, an NBA champion in 1951, and Bob Hobergs, the Helms Foundation College Basketball Player of the Year in 1953. Number 6, 2008. The prime of basketball was the 80s and 90s, and this is why we see the best Hall of Fame classes in the 2000s and 2010s. Adrian Dantley, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon. These players were exceptional during their time. Adrian Dantley was a scorer during his 16-year tenure in the NBA, averaging 30-plus points in 5 different seasons. He bounced around teams during his career, but was always the number 1 scoring option. Dantley was a 6-time All-Star and a 2-time scoring champ in 1981 and 1984. Patrick Ewing is widely known as the greatest Knick of all time. Playing 15 years in New York, Ewing was an 11-time All-Star but never won a championship, although he had many chances throughout the 90s. Just couldn't get it done thanks to, you guessed it, the Chicago Bulls. Those losses don't take away his very successful career, though, as he is on a small list of players with 22,000 points and 10,000 rebounds. He went 9 straight seasons averaging 21-plus points and 10 rebounds, which is astonishing to think he only made an All-NBA first team once. Ewing was also a member of the 1992 Dream Team, where he won one of his 2 Olympic gold medals. Hakeem Olajuwon was a big reason that Ewing didn't get those championships. All defensive teams, and all NBA teams. Hakeem Olajuwon was also a big reason that Ewing didn't get those championships. All defensive teams, and all NBA teams. Olajuwon went 12 straight seasons averaging 21-plus points and 10 rebounds. He also had 2 rings and 2 Finals MVPs, an MVP in 1994, 12 All-Star games, 2 Defensive Player of the Years, the list goes on. Olajuwon sits at the top of the all-time blocks list with 3,830, and nobody is really approaching him. Other members of this class include Pat Riley, one of the greatest NBA coaches of all time, winning 5 championships with the Lakers and Heat, and of course, Dick Vitale, baby! Number 5, 2018. Where do I start? Ray Allen is one of the greatest shooters of all time. For 18 years, he shot lights out in Milwaukee, Seattle, Boston, and Miami, and became a cheat code in 2K games. Allen won 2 championships with Boston and then Miami. It was a 10-time All-Star. He hit one of the greatest shots in NBA Finals history to help Miami win their 3rd championship in 2013. He consistently averaged 20 points a game and shot 40% from 3 throughout his career, and this helped change the NBA into the three-pointer style game it is today. Grant Hill had an exceptional career at Duke, winning 2 national championships and ACC Player of the Year in 1994. Hill was a 7-time All-Star in the NBA and often led his team in points, rebounds, and assists, and was seen as one of the best all-around players in the league. If it wasn't for injuries, he would have been an all-time great, but an ankle injury in 2000 affected him massively, and he was never the same. I want to say Steve Nash is the greatest passer of all time, but then I have to talk about Jason Kidd right after this. Yeah, this Hall of Fame class was pretty good. Nash was a 2-time MVP, an 8-time All-Star, and his 3rd all-time in assists with 10,335. Nash is one of 10 players to win back-to-back MVPs, and he was also a great three-point shooter, only shooting under 40% 3 times in his 18-year career. In 2004, Nash led a Suns team and went 29-53 the previous year without him to 62-20, reaching the conference finals. Jason Kidd was just as great, maybe even a little greater. Kidd is the only player in NBA history with 15,000 points, 10,000 assists, and 7,000 rebounds. Aside from that, Kidd was never an MVP like Nash, but made up for it with 10 All-Star appearances, 5 All-NBA first teams, 4 All-Defensive teams, and 2nd all-time in assists. He won his only championship with Dallas in 2011, beating LeBron in the Heat, but it was much after his prime. As a head coach, Kidd hasn't been the greatest, but as a player, you can't take away his insane playmaking ability. Number 4, 2010. This class consisted of some of the greatest players we have ever seen, and a team that at one point could have only been thought of as a dream. Oh. Well, I'll move on. The 1992 U.S. Olympic team will go down as possibly the greatest team ever assembled. The team won by an average of 51.5 points. Is that enough to convince you of their greatness? Who people don't know as much about is the 1960 U.S. Olympic team, who also was inducted this year and was just as great. Led by Oscar Robertson, Jerry Lucas, and Jerry West, this team went 8-0 at the Olympics on their way to a gold medal. And they beat teams by an average of 43 points. So I'm interested. Who would win? Most likely the Dream Team, but I think it would be a good battle. As for the players inducted, the Robin of the Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen, got his call after a very successful career. Pippen gets overshadowed because he won 6 championships with Michael Jordan, but he was possibly the greatest defender of all time and was an extremely athletic and healthy player. 5 seasons he started all 82 games, which is rare for a superstar nowadays. He was a 7-time All-Star and 8 times made the All-NBA defensive first team. Pippen still remains only one of 3 players to record 200 steals and 100 blocks in a season, and also led the league in steals in 1994. Pippen didn't enter the league as a shooter, but progressed throughout his career as shown through his percentages, especially from beyond the arc. The mailman also got the nod in 2010, who sits 2nd all-time in career points. Karl Malone is overlooked as a player because, again, he never got the chance to win due to Chicago's reign in the 90s. But every season except his rookie year and final year, he averaged 20-plus points. He played 19 seasons. He is also 7th all-time in rebounds with 14,968. And it really just goes on. 2 MVPs, 14 All-Stars, 11 All-NBA first teams, 3-time All-NBA defensive first team. This dude was still balling at 40 when he was on the Lakers in 2004, putting up a triple-double in one game, and even starting the NBA Finals. And talk about the mailman delivering. He started 1,471 out of 1,476 games. 5 games this man didn't play, and 3 were due to a suspension. Just wow. Other members of this class were Cynthia Cooper-Dyke, a 4-time WNBA champ and 2-time MVP, Dennis Johnson, a 3-time NBA champion, Gus Johnson, a 5-time All-Star, and Jerry Buss, the longtime owner of the Lakers. Number 3, 2016. Big man. And AI, of course, but he was a little undersized. Shaq is just the most dominant big man in NBA history. I mean, the guy literally broke backboards. Not once, just way too many times. I mean, the greatest NBA coach of all time, Phil Jackson, said Shaq underachieved and could and should have been the MVP player for 10 consecutive seasons. Shaq averaged a double-double for his first 13 seasons in the league, and while he couldn't hit a free throw to save his life, I think he ended up being fine. A 4-time champ, MVP in 2000, 15-time All-Star, 8 times on the All-NBA first team, and he even led the league in scoring twice. He could not be stopped. If you watch the highlights, he just used his low post game and size to his advantage, and it worked every time. Big Diesel. Good work. Yao Ming would have been one of the greatest centers of all time if it wasn't for injuries. In a brief NBA career, he made such an impact as a 7'6" giant, still managing to average 25 per game in 2007. He was an 8-time All-Star, but his biggest impact was made in the Chinese Basketball Association, where he's arguably the greatest Chinese-born player of all time, and helped make basketball so popular there. Off the court, this guy is such a great person too, doing work with the Special Olympics and even rhinos and elephants. And then there was Allen Iverson, who maybe helped out the rhinos and elephants, but I know for a fact he didn't like talking about practice. And he was not the biggest guy on the court either, but always made an impact. In MVP in 2001, AI just got buckets. A 4-time scoring champ and an 11-time All-Star, Iverson really changed the game with his flashy play and attitude on the court. He had that swag that so many kids would idolize and want to be like, especially young guards. Other members of this class were Cheryl Swoops, a 4-time WNBA champion, 3-time MVP, and Michigan State head coach Tom Izzo. Number 2, 2009. This year just had the man himself. How much do I need to say about Michael Jordan? Yeah, he's the GOAT. 6-time champion and finals MVP, 5-time MVP, averaged 30 points for his entire career, 10-time scoring champ, 14-time All-Star, 9 times All-NBA defensive first team. I mean, the guy had his number retired by a team he never even played for, the Miami Heat. He either has an NBA record or is very close to it. That's all I really got on MJ. He is the greatest basketball player the world has ever seen. If you'd like to hear more about Michael Jordan, just hit me up. I will give you a list of things. Besides MJ, John Stockton was also inducted this year. The all-time leader in assists with 15,806, Stockton totaled more than 1,000 assists in a season 7 different times. Second on that list is Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Porter, who only did it once. Stockton's job was to get his teammates involved, and that is what made him and Karl Malone so deadly, although they never won their championship. He is a 10-time All-Star and a 9-time assist champ, including 1990 when he averaged 14.5 assists per game, an all-time record still today. Though he never was much of a scorer, he made up for it with his passing ability that can't be compared to any player today. Another member of this class was one of the Twin Towers in San Antonio, David Robinson. A 2-time champ with the Spurs, Robinson is one of the best two-way players in NBA history. He was so dominant on both sides of the court, and that is what led to a career with 10 All-Star appearances, an MVP, and a Defensive Player of the Year. He is one of 6 players to score 70 points in a single game, and also one of 4 players to rack up a quadruple-double. And that's most astonishing for me because I've never experienced a quadruple-double in my lifetime. I'm still waiting for that one moment to happen. Also, Robinson averaged 4.5 blocks a game during the 1992 season. That's just unbelievable. Others inducted were Jerry Sloan, the longtime Utah Jazz coach during the Stockton and Malone era. Number 1, 2020. Now I'll be honest, it was tough choosing between this year's class and 2009. Maybe there's a little bias since I grew up with these guys, but if anything, this 2020 class is legendary. Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett. I mean, they just succeeded and won for their entire careers. Tim Duncan was a 5-time champion with the Spurs and was the definition of fundamentals. He never worried about social media or endorsement deals because it was all basketball for him. He averaged a double-double for his career and wasn't a starter for 3 of his career 1,392 games. Duncan won back-to-back MVPs in 2002 and 2003, was a 15-time All-Star, 15 times on an All-NBA team, and 15 times on an All-Defensive team. He is widely considered the greatest power forward of all time and a top 10 player of all time. Someone who had a little bit more emotion, though, was Kevin Garnett. KG won his 1 championship with the Celtics in 2008, was the MVP of the league in 2004 with Minnesota, and was the Defensive Player of the Year in 2003. Another player who averaged a double-double for his entire career, Garnett played 21 seasons in the league and was so consistent throughout all of it. He's the only player with 25,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 5,000 assists, 1,500 steals, and 1,500 blocks. Yeah, that's a lot, but just shows KG did everything on the court. He had that dog mentality that made him so fierce on the court. And then Kobe Bean Bryant, one of the greatest players we have ever seen. That Mamba mentality we all admired of his. On the court, he was in a zone and you couldn't break it. I mean, I will go through the stats, but that just doesn't do justice. 5 championships, an MVP in 2008, 18-time All-Star, 11-time All-NBA first team, and 9 times as an All-NBA defensive first team member. He was a 2-time scoring champ, including 1 season when he averaged 35 a game. Bryant scored 81 points in a single game against the Raptors. 81. Players are getting close, but it looks pretty untouchable as of right now. He scored at least 50 points 24 times in his career, and even had 4 different months where he averaged 40-plus points a game. Although Kobe sits 4th all-time in points, he is undoubtedly the greatest scorer of all time by the way he could drive to the hoop and finish, or shoot over 2 and sometimes even 3 defenders. The guy was just a savage, and that made his game so much more fun to watch. As much as you hated him when he was destroying your team in the playoffs, at the end of the day, everybody had to respect Kobe because he was the closest thing to Jordan. And when we thought we would never see another Michael Jordan, Kobe came. Following his tragic death, the NBA named the All-Star Game MVP trophy the Kobe Bryant Award in honor of the man who won 4 throughout his career. Rest in peace, Mamba. You were gone way too soon and was such a big part of my life. Other members of this class were Tamika Catchings, a 10-time WNBA All-Star, Rudy Tomjanovich, a 2-time NBA champion as the coach with the Rockets, and Eddie Sutton, a 2-time College National Coach of the Year.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, comment below Kobe in honor of the man himself. Also, if you comment Kobe, I know you watched the whole thing and you a real one, so that also tells me that. But during this quarantine time, I'm still trying to balance school and I want to make more YouTube videos. It's obviously hard not being able to step 5 feet, actually 6 feet outside your house. That's the thing nowadays. But we're going to make it work. So yeah, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Get ready for our next video. Not sure yet what it's going to be, but it'll be a banger like usual. Take care, guys. We'll see you.